fellow Hoyas. My name is Rich Batista. I am the founder and chairman of the Georgetown Entertainment Media Alliance, otherwise known as GEMA. Thank you for watching part one of this two-part video, where we ask senior level alumni who work in the media and entertainment industry the question, what career advice would you give to someone who either wants to break into the entertainment media industry or build a career in that industry? As you may know, this is an industry that is very challenging to break into. It's highly competitive. So we thought it would be valuable for you to hear from our own alumni who can give you, we believe, some valuable advice. On this first video, you'll hear from 5 alumni who work across sports, music, executive search, news, law, general management, and consulting. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you're able to watch part 2 as well. Thank you.
If we weren't living during a global pandemic, right, what I would say without question is to do what I did and try to get as much journalistic experience as you can on campus. Georgetown has some terrific media outlets, certainly in its papers. And from what I understand, there are far more opportunities in terms of video than there were when I was there. And then you live in one of the biggest media cities in the world. I mean, there are incredible opportunities in Washington, D.C. to intern with any of a number of news organizations. And I hate to keep sounding old, but that didn't exist when I was around. I mean, you've got the legacy organizations, you've got the new online organizations. So get off of campus, get an internship. They're all out there. I think more and more of them are paid. I'm pretty sure CNNs are paid. And then try to parlay that into a job. You know, the biggest piece of advice that I give young people is all you need to do is get your foot in the door. Like, just get your foot in the door, and then you can work your way up. If CNN offers you a job working in the library, take it. I mean, it's not about the job, it's about the exposure. Right. And it's about meeting those people. And those people are going to help you get the next job. And, you know, have your eye on the prize down the line, absolutely. Right. But you want to get in the door. And don't be afraid to jump around and try different places. So do what you can on campus. Try to get an internship. Talk to as many people as possible. That's another thing that I didn't do enough of. Identify people like me and others in the industry. And there's a very, very strong journalistic community, which Rich will tell you about and can help you with, who you can reach out to, who will be more than willing to give you advice on how to proceed.
Yeah. No, I always mention that point about getting the foot in the door, because sometimes I think younger people, they're looking for this perfect job, or boy, you know, I went to Georgetown, so unless I'm doing these things, you know, it's not worthy of me. And I say, I don't want to oversimplify it, but sometimes that's the hardest part, is getting in. Once you get in, if you're talented and work hard and have a passion for it, you can move up, as you said, and you can get where you want to get. So it's right. So let's now pivot a little to the issue that we have today. Do you think this will in any way change the ability for younger people to get into the business, or, you know, will there be a challenge in that regard?
In the short term, yes. Hopefully not in the long term. The internships, as you can imagine, are moving online, from what I've heard. And so, you know,
CNN is even doing internships.
Yeah, they are. CNN, you should definitely check out the jobs website on CNN. Very easy to find. I know that there are a number of departments that are doing internships, but they're going to be virtual. Right. I have to imagine, and I'm just speculating here, I have to imagine that the number of posts has gone down. It's obviously far harder to contribute from home if you've never worked in the building. I mean, I'm not allowed into the building. They're not going to let interns into the building. So I think the opportunities are still there. I imagine they're far fewer than they would be otherwise. I know that there are going to be some delays in terms of people who already have jobs onboarding and getting started. That's been kicked down the road. So, you know, we are blessed, I think, and I'm speaking for my own network, that we're going to be pretty resilient. I think at the end of the day, we're going to be fine. And so hopefully in the longer run, things will even out, and the opportunities will still be there. there's going to be a little disruption right now. It's going to be harder to get an internship. If you've already got a job, it might be delayed a little bit. Obviously, the hope would be that by next summer, or you'd say the spring or the fall, we're already, Georgetown, I think, doesn't even know whether they're going to have students on campus in the fall.
They haven't announced it yet, right?
So you have to imagine that the companies at the same time don't know whether they're going to have internships. But let's just say that things are getting back to normal in 2021, and that's certainly the expectation of the city of Washington and Mayor Bowser, that those internships will be back. Those opportunities will be back for people who are graduating in 2021. CNN, for example, I'm just going to plug my network for a second, has been great at hiring young Georgetown students. I can name a whole list of students who graduated in the last 2 or 3 years who are doing phenomenal things. I was an embed on Biden in 2008. The current embed on Biden in 2020 is a young woman named Sarah Muha, who I think graduated in 2017. So we're ready and willing and eager to take Georgetown students. We just need to get society into a place where that kind of thing is possible.
In a weird way, the thing that flashed through my mind was like, they're kind of the lucky position because the stakes are low right now for them. It's very hard when an executive with an established family or established career, especially in media and entertainment, sports too, you can be in 1 second, out the next, and then you're kind of never back in. And it's very challenging. When you're young and you have a whole world ahead of you, you can test and you can try and you could dip your toe in here and dip your toe in there, and the stakes are as long as you have a living wage, which is important.
Right.
But you can get a living wage by a whole variety of part-time jobs, right? And there's all sorts of ways. I would test and tinker a bit right now. And one of the things I always say, and people have told me this, there's a friend of mine she's now at Amazon, her name is Katie Bose, and she's a fantastic commercial developer. And, as part of executive search, you have to develop business a lot. And she'll always say that she loves to ask for the sale. And she doesn't care if people say no, like literally doesn't care. She's like, okay, you say no, no big deal. I think young people have to take that same approach. And that's what makes her so good. But take that same approach, which is like, what's the worst that can happen? Rich is not going to write you back. Who cares? Rich didn't write you back. Try somebody else, right? So
right.
I know you always write back, but I'm saying if someone of your stature, someone at CEO level like you, if you got a note from someone and you didn't have time or you didn't like the note, I mean, so big, so what? So people can reach out. There's all these famous examples of people getting into sports. There's a wonderful guy, Georgetown alum, named Tim Brosnan, who is Brosnan, who's another wonderful mentor of mine over the years. And he wrote MLB like a letter every week he would explain this better. We'll get his daughter on, who's another dynamo, who's a Georgetown alum, and his son, Kevin. Yeah. And I think Charlotte's at Georgetown too. I think all of his kids. They're all. But and he wrote a letter a week for years or something insane like that to get himself into Major League Baseball. And so what's the worst that can happen? And Bud Selig never wrote back. I don't know. He was the commissioner actually, but no one wrote back. So I just think this is the time to really test it out and go for it. And I've seen incredible things happen by people just sticking their neck out and asking for things.
I think too, obviously the summer internship market is in some ways probably dried up, but there are opportunities, to your point about being aggressive. Maybe there's someone who needs help on a project and needs research work for 2 weeks, even if it's something, dipping your toe in and being able to find something, but you're not going to get that unless you ask and unless you show some ingenuity and some creativity. And, it could be a family, a friend, it could be a Georgetown connection, like you said, or somebody, if you are a sports lover and you're trying to do an internship and they've dried up for this summer, maybe there is something you could do that's more short-term based, or maybe working on a project with someone. Even that can lead to great doors opening and obviously education and learning more about the craft.
The only reason I was more senior. I think I was probably 35, or I guess so it's early 30s. So I was a bit more senior than what you're talking about. But the only reason I even created a sports practice is because I went and I stuck my neck out to try and get this Big East search. And then I went and sat myself in Joe Leccese office.
Good.
Called up Tim Brosnan, and by the way, all Georgetown people, and which is so amazing. Georgetown, yeah. And I just said, I want to do this. And Joe could have Joe would never do this. He was the most gracious man, but he could have closed the door in my face. Tim Brossenfield laughed me out of the office, but they were just wonderful about it. So I wouldn't be here without that. And in my own firm, you know, we have all these different practices, and I've had 2 or 3 different analyst level, which is like the entry level for Spencer Stuart. One of whom's in financial services, one of whom's in real estate, say, I want to be involved in the sports practice. And so they'll like lend their time to the sports practice, and they help with any kind of research we need. And guess what? Now they're officially part of the sports practice.
Well, I mean, if it's about Nashville, if it's about Nashville, you know, it's like it's hard to climb mountains if you don't go to the mountains, and you kind of have to move there. And I, you know, in the beginning, I talked.
You know, I always say that too, and you know, people who are in Hollywood, you know, in the movie business, TV business, you just have got to get to Los Angeles.
That's right. That's right.
You just have.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it all at once. You can kind of, you know, I did 2 weeks a month for 4 years. That's a long time, but I had a solid presence there, and I was disciplined about it. But I think that's the first kind of thing, because so much of it is the community and the people. Like I've spoken about here tonight. You know, it's the community is going to be your way in. There is no application. There's no proper ladder that you walk up. You know, it's going to be your people, that the like-minded people that kind of help you out along the way. So you got to kind of move there. Beyond that, you know, I think listen to a lot. If you want to be in a certain field of music, listen to what's going on in that music. Make yourself aware of the charts and the producers' names and the writers' names and the artists' names. Study it. You know, be a good student of the field you think you want to go into. Not just for your own edification, but because you're going to be sitting in somebody's office. And if they've just released a record or produced a record and you're ignorant to that, they're going to feel that. And you know, you want to kind of be on top of your game in not overly familiar, but you just want to know what the lay of the land is that you're walking through. It shows a certain amount of respect, I think. Right. You know, what Roland Flint said, a writer writes. You got to just keep doing it. You have to keep doing it and keep looking at other people's tricks. The best way to learn is collaborating with other people, because you learn their tricks. You learn what works and doesn't about your own tricks. Mm-hmm. You kind of learn who you are. And so you know, we talked about collaboration being the coin of the realm. So much of collaboration is psychology. And, you know, who are you in the room during the creative process? You can't bristle. You got to be a good hang, you know? In fact, I mean, I know some songwriters who have made a career of being a great hang, you know?
They're like kicking around the hoop, and then next thing you know, they're part of a #1 song.
That's right. They're not terrible writers, but they're not the most brilliant writers, but they're great hangs. And I think it's lost on people sometimes how important that is, to be somebody that others want to be around.
Really, really important advice.
It really is, you know, and that's not to say it's who you know, because, you know, the cost of entry is talent and passion. Everybody there is passionate and talented. Right. After that, you know, what separates you? What kind of gives you an advantage, or at least makes you join their ranks with something to offer?
Well, look, there's no substitute for preparation, and I think to get too fixated on any one area, whether it's sports or media or entertainment, can sometimes lead people to frustration because they're not open to other areas that might actually be a better match for their skills or their interests. Because there are pieces of the sports business I might not necessarily enjoy as much as the piece of the sports business that I've been in, and I'm sure there are plenty of people in those areas that wouldn't particularly enjoy what I do. There's no substitute for the best education you can have, the highest level of achievement at that level of education, the training that you get on the job from internships and starter jobs and things like that. And I realize that certainly our young undergraduates and recent graduates, this has got to be a real gut punch in terms of a process that many of them, you know, had underway to prepare themselves in those fashions. You know, I would just say, look, you know, in 2008, a lot of other people were in the same position. By 2010, the economy started to roar again, and many of those people have spent the last 10 years rising up in their organizations, even though the first couple of years were kind of rough, either coming out of school or post-school. This may take the same path, but ultimately you have a multi-decade career, and the economy will grow, sports will be back, media will be back, live events will be back for those who want to be in the music business or the theatrical business. You know, if you continue on the path that you aspire to, well, it may be somewhat more trying and challenging today than one might have expected just as recently as February, it can still happen for you.
Yeah. What about someone listening in who maybe is working at a law firm, maybe is 3 or 4 years out, 5 years out, and maybe even 6 years out, and they're getting an opportunity to maybe go in-house at a firm and work inside a company versus at a law firm? I'm sure you've had those opportunities throughout your career. What are some of the pros and cons to, would you say to that person if they're just thinking about a question, having a question answered like that?
Yeah, well, look, especially if it's in the Georgetown community, and one of my banker friends who did not go to Georgetown has now concluded that everyone in the sports business went to Georgetown at some point because he feels surrounded by us.
Yeah, I get that often too.
One is whatever that offer is will not be the last offer you got. I think there's a tendency sometimes by people who are only 3 or 4 or 5 years out of school to think that this first very attractive offer, if I don't take it, I'll never have another chance like this again.
Interesting.
There may be a handful of things that are truly, once in a lifetime, but most are not. And every offer that I turned down, the next offer was better and better. And actually for me, it was better to turn them all down. But for others, and certainly many of the younger lawyers that I've worked with have gone on into teams or leagues or media companies or investment banks or digital companies, and they're thriving. I think first and foremost, is it a subject matter that you like, depending upon which of those industries it is? Mm. Do you like, and more importantly, do you trust the people? Because you're going to go from having lots of clients to having one client. And most of my younger colleagues aspire to move to the business side, which I understand. Is that a realistic aspiration in that company?
Right.
And on that platform, or will you be pigeonholed into something narrower than you might want? So there's no one answer for people. I think it's a match of interests, abilities, life plans. Is it in a geography you and your family want to live in? Will it lead to another move? If so, will that move be the one that you want? So it's the usual assortment of variables when you're thinking about a career move. Yeah. But I would say the most important advice is don't jump at the first offer. If it doesn't tick enough of the boxes, nothing will tick every box, but if it doesn't tick enough of the boxes to be persuasive.
Yeah.
I think I would have different pieces of advice depending upon if it's somebody who's going on a real business track versus somebody who may be going more on a creative track.
Yeah, why don't we take both?
I think on the creative side, I think there are a lot of opportunities for you to come up with really interesting things. You have so many different distribution platforms. You could create something funny. I mean, if you're into animation, or if you're into comedy, or if you're into storytelling, there's probably excuse me?
Gaming.
Yeah. Use this time to use your creative oats or whatever. Use your creative energy and put it to the test. Really go out there and try things. I think people will be receptive to it. So I think, and also if you can really create something that resonates with people, that will really help catapult your career. I think we're going to see some really fascinating things come out on a creative basis over the next.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
When you think about the business side, I think it's going to be more challenging, just because I think this is going to accelerate the decline of certain business areas within each of these businesses. There's going to probably be hiring freezes for a bit of time. But if you're interested in this business, certainly there are ways that you can help get yourself into the business. One, you could start writing about the business. You could start analyzing about the business. You could wind up developing a podcast about the business, and you start interviewing people about things in the business. Put your networking thinking cap on and think about interesting and innovative ways that you can take advantage of this situation. Well, not take advantage, but leverage the situation to get yourself talking to people or presenting solutions to people. So come up with solutions, be value added, provide interesting points of view. Yeah. I'm also giving advice to myself too, by the way. So I'm in the business.
I get it. I think you know, it's a, you know, they don't want to, you know, no one wants to hear this, but yeah, and it's easy to say it for us, but like patience is just going to be so important. You know, I think there are kids who are going to be in summer internship programs. Summer internship programs have been canceled by a lot of companies. There were students who were literally interviewing for jobs and now have been told, or close to getting a job, or even got a job offer and have been told these are now on hold. So, you know, I know it's easy for you to say, oh, just be patient, but I think patience through the next 3 to 4 months, and everyone has to just understand that hopefully this will be a moment in time, probably longer than we all want it to be. But it, you know, I'm not sure there's any easy answers. Like you said, more on the business track. I agree with you. I think there's, you know, then again, you know, advertising in certain places will, you know, certain areas of advertising are going to need people. So, you know, others are not. But, you know, look, I know, you know, TikTok is hiring like crazy right now.
Yeah.
You know, that's a company that's hiring. You know, companies like the podcasting companies are growing in that side. And like you said, I think on analysis side is one area potentially, but it's not going to be easy.
No.